Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's a fascinating chapter with some real amazing lessons for us. So let's dive into it. I just kind of randomly chose a couple of verses to go over in the chapter.
We don't say randomly in devotional circles, we say spontaneously.
Okay.
Right?
So, tam bandhum agatam dristva dharmaputra sahajuna nuja dhritarastro yudutsuscha sutta saradbhata prita Gandhari Draupadi Brahman Subhadra Chatara Kripi Anyas Cha Jamayo Pandor Gantayo Sasuta Striya. Okay. Give me a second here. When they saw Vidura return to the palace, all the inhabitants, Maharaj Yudhisthira, his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Satyaki, Sanjaya, Kripacharya, Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Subhadra, Uttara, Kripi, many other wives of the Kauravas and other ladies with children, all hurried to him in great delight. It so appeared that they had regained their consciousness after a long time. So the chapter begins with Vidura is returning. He had been ostracized he had been kicked out by Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra some time ago and was on pilgrimage for a long time. The battle of Kurukshetra is finished. Yudhisthira is the king, and Vidura returns. And as we just read, the Pandavas and everyone, including Dhritarashtra, everyone was so happy that he's returning. He has a very specific reason for returning, which we'll come to in a second. But he has come and he's greeted, and Yudhisthira Maharaj, rolls out the red carpet, so to speak, and inquires from him. And Vidura tells him about all, his pilgrimage. He leaves out, because of his soft-heartedness, he leaves out the fact that Krishna and the Yadavas have left this world. He didn't have the heart to tell them. And that's not the main point I wanted to focus on, but that is a really fascinating, or fascinating may be the wrong word. It's instructive, right? We sometimes, if I'm honest, at least I can say for myself, someone else has some shortcoming, some problem, I kind of enjoy gossiping about it, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about this. But Vidura, he didn't have the heart to break this bad news to such wonderful devotees as the Pandavas. So he sees Dhritarashtra, and look at Dhritarashtra's situation. He's living the life of luxury. There's no doubt about that. Yudhisthira Maharaj is taking wonderful care of him and his wife Gandhari, his servant Sanjaya, his secretary Sanjaya, being maintained wonderfully, of course. And Dhritarashtra is thinking I'm being maintained wonderfully, not thinking that actually Krishna is maintaining me. But Yudhisthira felt obliged and also wanting to serve his uncle in that way. And Vidura realizes that this is a disaster spiritually and even materially. He sarcastically calls him king, right? Even though all of his 100 sons have been killed by Bhima. And he started to give a lecture to Dhritarashtra, and everyone else in the palace is listening. They're listening. The Pandavas are hearing all this, and he's telling that Krishna as time, the time factor has come. Your memory is lost. Your teeth are falling out. You're practically an invalid. Your hearing is shot. I guess you could hear these words. And you're like a household dog eating the remnants, like the bones thrown by Bhima, who killed your 100 sons. And these are the people you tried to kill. You tried to dishonor their wife. This, if you just stick around the palace like this, it's going to be material death, spiritual death, katam hogya, it's going to be the time factor crushes everything, whether it's a mountain it crushes and universes it crushes. And you're in deep trouble, my dear brother. So he says that you should depend on God, not on Yudhisthira and Bhima, and you should have a glorious death. Don't be a creep and a miserly person, but at least become a dira, a spiritually advanced person. Not necessarily, we'll get to that in a minute, that he couldn't become fully a devotee. But he convinces Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra, the next morning, or in the still of the night, Vidura, Dhritarashtra, and Gandhari exit the palace and head for the Himalayas, the southern side of the Himalayas. And he's saying, yeah, he was also told, Kali Yuga is coming, so let's just get out of here. Right? And the lesson, or one of the big lessons that we should get from this is that, and what Vidura was, telling and trying to convince him about, is that he is thinking that he's dependent on Yudhisthira instead of on God. Okay, so next morning, they're gone. Yudhisthira does his regular routine of paying respects to his elders, and he goes into the room where Gandhari and Dhritarashtra are staying, and they're nowhere to be found. And he starts getting real down on himself. What did I do? I must have offended them. Oh my God. And he blames himself for this. He blames himself for, the Battle of Kurukshetra, practically, that all of this happened with so many people dying, also I could become the king. Right? And he starts wondering, how are they going to survive? Where are they? I was taking such good care. They had no wants, no needs. Now, what's gonna happen? And he was also blaming himself for being ungrateful, that he forgot that he due to his devotee-like consciousness, he skipped the part about him trying to kill him and his brothers and his mother and his wife and all that sort of stuff, and just went back earlier when after their father Pandu died, and that in his mind that he was taken care of so nicely by Dhritarashtra. So in this lamenting mode that he's in, and really beating himself up, as we say, Narada Muni arrives, right? And he starts preaching, just as Vidura was, as we use the word, preaching heavily to Dhritarashtra. Narada was really, as we used to say in this country, he was really giving the sauce to Yudhisthira, right? He just said that, he at one point he says, one who is in the claws of death. What is this? The snake? What is it? Anyway, someone who's in the grips of death, how can they help somebody else? Right? And he's explaining to them that you think you're the maintainer, you're taking care. Krishna's the maintainer, not you. Now, of course, so what's going on here, and what I thought was so fascinating about this chapter, is Dhritarashtra is in Maya because he thinks he's being maintained by someone other than Krishna. And Yudhisthira, he's not, of course, he's not, he's a pure devotee, but it's arranged by the Lord that he's in Maya, thinking that he's the maintainer. So the maintained someone who thinks that they're maintained and by someone other than Krishna, and someone who thinks that they're the maintainer rather than Krishna, they're both in illusion. And of the two, the maintainer, Yudhisthira's position, is a stronger kind of illusion. Prabhupada gives the example in a purport that the father's attachment for the child is stronger than the child's attachment to the father. Mm. And so I think it's such a fascinating juxtaposition in this chapter of showing us that our real maintainer is Krishna, and that we are, Grotritve Varanam, of the six symptoms of surrender, of Sharanagati, Anukulyasya Sankalpa, to accept everything favorable, Pratikulyasya Varjanam, to reject everything unfavorable, Rakshisha Titi Vishwas Vaso, to understand that Krishna is our protector, Gotripte Varanam, that Krishna is our maintainer. Those are the first four of the six symptoms of surrender. The others is humility and self-surrender. Now this, of course, so this, if we think about our own lives, right, we may think about this, especially about really developing the consciousness that Krishna is not only our maintainer, personally my maintainer. Now, we do our duty. If our duty is to maintain others, we're the head of the household, and the breadwinner, as they say, that may be our duty, or our duty may be to maintain by another member of the household, or we do our duty. But in both situations, it's really essential for making advancement in Krishna consciousness to remember that Krishna is the ultimate maintainer. And Jiva Goswami says, of the six symptoms of surrender, this one, Gotripte Varanam, thinking Krishna is my maintainer, is the most important one. It's the most important one. So Narada also, he kind of pacifies Yudhisthira, because he tells him about the destination of Dhritarashtra, that he's going to fast, and only he can eat the nuts and things that are available, and eventually he'll just drink water, and then I think it's 5 days from now, in his yogic, he'll be doing sacrifices and penances and meditation, and in his mystic yogic trance, his body will burn, and then Gandhari will enter into that fire. So he's also telling you to don't try to go find him, because you're not, it's not worth the effort. It's also, again, a side note here is that Prabhupada writes that he became a dhira, which is like a self-realized, but he could not become a narottama, a pure devotee, and that was because of his offenses against the Pandavas. So it's a lesson for us about really trying to avoid Vaishnava aparad. Because look at it followed Dhritarashtra right to the point of his death, and Vidura lamented that he couldn't, as we would say, make him a devotee, right? Because he was just way too offensive. So let me look at the time here. We have Kalentis. Okay, so it's 7:30. Oh, so I have another half hour, right? Or 15 minutes, according to take for some questions. So I wanted to now, go to this point about Gotripte Varanam. And I did what any good person planning for a class is. He went to ChatGPT. And I'll show you a little bit. I thought that this was kind of interesting, if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. I asked about Gotripte Varanam in the different sampradayas. And I thought this was really interesting. In the Sri Sampradaya, the Lord Narayan is the sole upaya, or means, and sole protector. The devotee formally chooses him as guardian, and this is often ritually expressed in Sharanagati initiation. And theologically, the soul is utterly dependent, Shesha, on the Lord, and the Lord is the master, Sheshi. Like a child dependent fully on a parent, one relinquishes self-reliance as a spiritual strategy. And then in the Madhva Sampradaya, Vishnu is independently supreme. The soul is dependent and distinct, and we accept the devotee accepts Krishna as the Vishnu as the maintainer, um, and means recognizing ontological hierarchy. But this is what I really wanted to get to is this. In our sampradaya, it says the mood becomes more intimate and emotionally rich. Krishna is not just maintainer, he is my maintainer. And dependence is infused with loving trust. So I like this. The Chat GPT doesn't always get it right, but this seems quite good. It becomes emotional reliance, deep internal confidence in Krishna's personal care, letting go of anxiety about survival and status. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes about that a lot in his Sharanagati poem. That I have no anxieties now because Krishna is taking care of me. And the consciousness is Krishna will maintain me in whatever condition best nourishes my bhakti. And then it says this is the mood of Braja, the dependence of the gopis, and the humility of Raghunath Das Goswami. So yeah, I thought that was helpful. And then what I wanted to do now is I focus a little bit on this point. Where was it? Krishna's my maintainer. And in order to have that real idea that Krishna's my maintainer, like if somebody says, tell me about Krishna, and I know sometimes I'll reply, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's kind of like his position or his job. But what about the person Krishna? We're being maintained by a person. Being maintained by a person. So that led me to think of the two verses when Sukadeva Goswami was born and he takes off immediately. And how does Vyasadeva get him to come back? And what he does is he quotes two verses, but most of you I'm sure know, from the Bhagavatam. One about Krishna's guna, his qualities, and one about his rupa, his beauty. So I thought I would show those because this is where it comes down to ultimately is that Krishna is a person, and we really, at least I know for myself, I have to remind myself of that. I have to remind myself when I pick up my beads that the name is not an the name is a he, a person. So these two verses are so powerful are two ways that we can meditate on Krishna as a person. And where are we here? I have to find it. Oh, just give me a second. So the first one is about Krishna's quality. Why isn't this closed? Okay, there we go. Share. So, of course, a famous verse from the third canto. It begins, Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kutam. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana? Although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. And Prabhupada writes, here is an example of the extreme mercy of the Lord, even to his enemy. So we can meditate on how merciful Krishna is. So here's a quality of Krishna, merciful. And that most merciful person who even gave the position of mother to Putana is my maintainer. And then the other verse, which another famous verse, in And this is about Krishna and his beauty. Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head. Can you see this, by the way?
Yes, we
Yes?
can.
Okay. And blue carnicara flowers in his ears. Just so you know, that is a carnicari flower. A yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vajjayanti garland. Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glory. So this is beautiful Krishna, who's my, everyone, maintainer. With peacock feather, he wears his blue. Sometimes he wears it on his left ear, sometimes on his right ear. His garland, his yellow garment is like gold. He has a Vajjayanti garland. He's the best dancer, and he's entering the forest with the cowherd boys to take care of the cows. And he's beautified with the marks of his footprints. Anyone go off of mute or put in the chat, what are some of the aspects, or what do you see on Krishna's feet? What are some of the markings? Lotus. Okay, thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu. Anything else? Oh, wait, is there more chats? Oh. He has the elephant goad, right? He has the umbrella, fish. It's not a bad idea to Google or, what's the imprints on Krishna's feet and meditate on that. Akrura, when he saw that, he rolled in the ground. Flag, thunderbolt, thank you. Here's more. Now they're all pouring in. Lotus, disc, flag, thunderbolt, barley, yes. Conch, I think so, yes. So anyway, the point is, that we're trying to get is that this is our maintainer. So so thinking of Krishna as our maintainer, it's not just like, okay, he paid the bills last month or whatever, but this person. And these two verses, these are the ones that got Sukadev to do a 180, right? They're that powerful, these two verses about just how merciful, and we can learn more in the Nectar of Devotion about Krishna's other qualities and really try to take some time to meditate on that person and what his qualities are, what Srimati Radharani's qualities are, what Krishna's form is and to remember, like I mentioned before, that his name is the person Krishna. And that's really a way to make rapid advancement, especially because, as I said, Jiva Goswami said that this Kotra Prevaranam is the most important, the most powerful of the six principles of surrender. So to enter into that concept that, kind of the Draupadi program, that Krishna is my maintainer, it's very powerful. So I thought that this, when I thought of this chapter and how this idea of being careful about the power of illusion in terms of maintainer and maintained, and then connect that to the reality of maintainer and maintained in our relationship with Krishna. Okay, so there you go, Ananda Bihari Prabhu. That's even more, it's 17 minutes for questions, comments.
Vraj Vihari Prabhu, they're testing you to see if you are indeed comfortable with silence.
Totally.
Yeah. We believe you. Jani Tai Prabhu, Temple Room.
Hare Krishna, Vraj Vihari Prabhu. Thank you once again for a wonderful class. And
Hare Krishna.
I can hear the devotional nectar from Govardhan flowing through your voice, the dust of Govardhan reaching itself. Thank you. Um, I have one. There was one point where you said, and I missed it, that was it Dhritarashtra that was able to become he was able to become something, but not a Narottam.
Yeah.
What was that? And could you expand on that a little bit?
Yes. And if you give me about 1 minute, I'll find it here, I think. Hmm. If I don't find it right quickly, then I'll just oh yeah. Let's see. Prabhupada writes in the purport to 28, to become Narottama, or a first-class human being, depending completely on the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, is not possible for any ordinary man. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:28 that a person who is completely relieved of all taints of sinful acts can alone depend on the Supreme Lord Krishna. Dhritarashtra was advised by Vidura to at least become a Dhira in the beginning if it were impossible for him to become a sannyasi or a narottama. Persistently endeavoring on the line of self-realization helps the person to rise to the condition of narottama from the stage of dhira. And there was another place, I'm not finding it right immediately, but it says that because of his offenses, he could only get so far. So dhira would be more like a self-realized person, and a narottama is a God-realized person. Is that all right? Or did you want me to expand on that? Expand on Prabhupada's purport?
Yeah, no problem. I
What's
guess
that?
often we don't hear this term used, Narottam. I guess in one sense it's being used as in context of a pure devotee, a narrow uttama, someone who's topmost human, I presume.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I would assume I haven't, again, I'm not, I don't have the Sanskrit in front of me, but I'm assuming that those are words that are either in the Sanskrit or something from the Acharyas. Oh, here we go. Well, let's see. Well, in Prabhupada's purports from 25 to 28, he makes this distinction in those 4 verses about Kripana, Dhira, Sannyasi, and Narottama. Kripana is a miserly man who doesn't use, miserly person who doesn't use the human form of life for spiritual advancement and is just absorbed in the temporary. A Dhira is one who is undisturbed even in the presence of something disturbing. That's an interesting definition, right? They are able to renounce family relationships for spiritual advancement and can become a sannyasi. And then there's 2 kinds of sannyasis. One who's renounced family relationships and accepted the renounced order out of frustration with material life, and those who are narottama, first-class human beings who are sincere, pure devotees, practice to depend fully on Krishna. So yeah, I like that. Prabhupada sometimes say, well, some people take sannyasis because they're fried with material life. But a higher than that sannyasi is the narottama who's actually doing it. It took sannyas to develop their love for Krishna, dependence and love for Krishna.
Beautiful. That was exactly the answer I was hoping for. Thank you. Very
It
nice.
came right from Prabhupada, so good. All right. Thank you for the question. Other questions, comments?
Dear devotees, it's your turn to shine. Please reflect.
Oh, Hare Krishna. It's Vinu Madhuri. Well, thank you so much for your class. Can you, if it's not too impertinent or personal, can you give us some examples of how you practice this reliance on Krishna as your maintainer? Just to help us practically think about some ways to bring this down to our very junior level, like how to do it.
Well, it's interesting.
Or
It's
what
interesting you
works and
bring
what
that up. I was
doesn't
just
work.
thinking about today because
Audible.
so I mean, this now we're really talking practical and not really so philosophical, but it is something that may help me become like this. Okay, so I've kind of in our family's small. It's just my wife and my son, and now my daughter-in-law, and well, grandson also. But yeah. Um, And I've always kind of been the breadwinner in the family. My wife was just doing full-time service. She was in charge of school in Vrindavan. She's temple president in Washington, D.C. And she just did full-time service. And I was doing service, but also working for different organizations in my field of conflict resolution. And I'm semi-retired. I still work for NASA and a few other organizations, but really very, very, very part-time. And I can do it from Govardhan. So I was just thinking about this today that, okay, so I'm still kind of 67 and I'm still kind of like thinking about bills and this and that and, where, money invested here or whatever, just that whole life. And my son is now 34 and, he's quite a responsible person and he's a father now. So I've already started to do this. So on a practical level, I'm turning over the the worries, the anxieties, or the concerns, or just the, counting dollars and cents to him so that I don't have to be in that mindset and think about it. And hopefully then I can really just say, Krishna, hey, um, I have a friend of mine, one of my best friends, who's really, really good at this. His name is Shonaka Rishi Prabhu. He's the director of the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies, and an amazing program, just absolutely amazing. Devotees getting PhDs from Oxford University, and just brilliant, brilliant service that he does. And he just has these amazing things kind of happen to him because he totally doesn't take, he's totally broke. And he just depends on Krishna. And he looked at this property in Oxford. It was £2 million, impossible to get. But then somebody came along and gave him £2 million for it. And things like that happen to him constantly. I'm always like awed by him, and I appreciate that. So I just thought this is a little step in that direction, so that if my son's worrying about those things and I'm not really thinking about money and all that, I might be in a better consciousness to think of Krishna as my maintainer. Now, like I said, if we're a good devotee, I'm not a good devotee, but if we're a good devotee, we can be dealing with the practicalities of life and concerned about this person's health and finances, this and that, and still understand Krishna as the maintainer. But I struggled with that, so therefore I try to find a practical way to move things in another direction, so I just wouldn't be in my consciousness. So that's one way. When we were younger, when my wife and I, well, she wasn't even my wife. We were, as they say in ISKCON, we were associating, and we we moved to. I told her I really want to marry you, but we're moving to Vrindavan, and she agreed, and even amazingly, Badri Narayan Maharaj agreed, because back in the '80s, the temple president kind of owned the devotees, and she was their number one collector and in charge of the Gurukul. But he really looked after her welfare, and he allowed her to moved to Vrindavan. And we moved to Vrindavan with like a few $100s. I mean, we really enough for the airfares and nothing much. And just, I don't know if it was dumb or innocent, but yeah. And it was, and the other thing I remember, if you look at the book My Glorious Master by Burijan Prabhu, he tells a story about living in Hong Kong, and they something happened. They lost their deposit on a place or something like that. And they literally had zero money, zero. And every day somebody would knock on their door and bring them some food, invite them to their home for prasadam, and this went on for like 2 weeks with just Krishna every day just maintained them. And then he said they got their deposit back, and then the whole thing stopped. So there's so many beautiful stories about devotees. And of course, the number one story, of course, is Prabhupada getting on the Jaladuta with 40 rupees in his pocket and completely dependent on Krishna. Is that all right? Did I?
Yes, thank you so much. So inspiring. Haribol.
Vraj Vihari Prabhu, wonderful elaboration on that principle. Aren't we supposed to die on the battlefield? Or are we supposed to retire and, sit back? Is there a contradiction
I've
there?
been thinking about that. Um, that we know Prabhupada said that once in New York. He was going down the elevator, right? And he said, "I want to die on the battlefield like Arjuna." Um, yeah, I don't think there's any specific answer. I can only say what has been going through my mind. Um, that even though I had jobs and all that, I always was really like full on for the mission, just like nonstop and for whatever,
Prabhu,
45 years or something like that. And uh, I'm trying to think now, living here in Govardhan and still doing my service, ISKCON Resolve, and dealing with conflicts and all that. But I am thinking right now that I want to set up ISKCON Resolve so it goes on without me and really spend the twilight years, of course, it could be twilight minutes, right? But twilight years really trying to become a devotee, really increasing my rounds, increasing my hearing and chanting. Um,
Prabhu,
and
could you expand on the die before you die? I mean, there's two types of dying here. Could you unpack that statement, which actually means so much in regards to actually what are we really dying to?
I didn't quote that. I'm not sure I
No, no,
understand
no,
that.
no. It's a common quote, of course, of
I
way back.
know.
William Blake or
Uh,
something like that said it, but of course
yeah.
it was repeated by many devotees.
Well,
Yeah.
Burijan Prabhu talks about that with, he has a little twist on it, die, D-Y-E, before you D-I-E, and die our consciousness with Krishna consciousness. So let me just finish as Ananda Bihari Prabhu points out, I go through this mental gymnastics of feeling guilty about even thinking about spending more time hearing and chanting because I've kind of just that kind of this kind of work ethic is quite deep in my training, I guess but at the same time, I'm the other part of me says it's not going to hurt spreading Krishna consciousness if you become more Krishna conscious, right? And the fact is that we do want to prepare for death. So that's I'm going through that. So I'm not saying I'm going to just become a hermit and naturally not do that. But I do think it's important for devotees as they get older to deepen their Krishna consciousness. However that manifests, that's very individual. Um, but it usually manifests. I'm going through the Bhagavatam right now again and again and again and again and again. Prabhupada talks about hearing and chanting. So, we took a vow to chant a minimum of 16 rounds. That doesn't mean we have to stop at 16. and to take time to really hear Prabhupada's books carefully. Yeah, boil the milk, right? Madan Gopal brought, and Prabhupada said that in 1972, where we had like, I don't know, maybe a couple of thousand devotees at the most. And he said, we've made enough devotees now, it's time to boil the milk. So what to speak of now? And that's kind of uh, just the last thing, because time's up, but that's kind of the purpose of this retreat center here at Govardhan, is devotees do work, work now, samadhi later, work for Krishna. So we built this place, it was this inspiration of Satchidananda Swami and Burijan Prabhu, so that devotees can come, do retreats, really deepen their Krishna consciousness. And and we do find that sometimes, well, I was going to say especially here in India, but no, anywhere, um, devotees sometimes just work, and they don't really sometimes take the time to get that higher taste of relating to Krishna as a person, like we were talking about. So thank you so much, my dear devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Bhagavatam samasitam durasanam Kandarpakoti kamaniya Jivan Murlidhar ki jai, Krishna Bhagavan ki jai, Sringadev Bhagavan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can obtain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet and pray all reverence. By the grace of the I obtain the mercy of Christians. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that will do shall be behind. He opens my darkened eyes, fills my heart with transcendental love. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic atonement radiates, and by him, ignorance is destroyed. Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of blessing, the friend of the Lord, and the Lord and master of his devotees. Oh, Master, be merciful unto us, and give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter in the pure lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Temple room ki jai. Jai Shri Prabhupada. EKADASI ki jai. Fasting from grains and beans, chanting rounds with burning tears today, dear devotees, for Krishna. Dying before we die today. It's a good opportunity to die to social media, for example, to die to worries, anxieties, to die to unwanted habits. Right, Bhima Prabhu? Are you dead to unwanted habits?
I'm dead because of all those things.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
My soul's digging my own grave.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Nice. Bhima Prabhu is so witty. You really worshipped Goddess Saraswati in your last life, Bhima Prabhu, I think. Or you made a horse sacrifice. And then when you were offered a boon, you asked for wittiness.
Actually, in my past life, I was a jackass that got sacrificed. So
That animal.
yes, and I was reborn as I am now. And I still get kicked in the face after a long day of chasing a carrot.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Thank you for being so vulnerable. Okay. Dear devotees, would anyone like to add anything? Would anyone like to confess anything? Or maybe you'd like to share something in line with Guru Sadhan Shastra? No? Okay. So, Annabelle, Isaiah, please. Time to chant Hare Krishna loudly. Sky, Sage, please, if you can. Isaiah, you sound like an oracle. Okay, Sundari Radha, nice to see you. Where are our chanters? Sage, Sky, Paw Patrol. All right, nice to see you. Okay, let's do it.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much. Sky, Sage, Annabelle, Isaiah, thank you very much. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Happy Thursday. Happy EKADASI. We love you and we need you. Come again tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends. It has all the answers.